What is up everybody, my name is Tyler Potts and in today's video we're going to be focusing on Vue animations and well, I won't call them animation, I'd call them transitions because there's a difference between transitions and animations. Transitions go from one point to another. Animations can go from one point to another to a different place, backwards and forwards, all that shenanigans. But transitions, they only move between two states, whereas animations can move between multiple states. So for example, this is what we're going to be building today, something very simple. Don't worry about the style. You can think of this more as a template where you can apply it to your own web page or Vue web application, and you can see how Vue animations can be used or Vue transitions. We'll get onto advanced animations probably in another video down the line if you guys enjoyed this video. So let's get started. So on this little template, I just have a title and some body text and then this little button. So we are starting off with some page transition. So if I click about, as you can see, it fades up and then back in. If I click back, it fades up and in, and it seems seamless. But if you look up here, the page is changing. It's just Vue has a really good way of handling it using its router. And now once you've got that down, once we've done that, we're going to go over to just animating objects on the page, either using any sort of button. You can use a button or when you get to a scroll point or something, but again, we're going to use a button today. So this is how you can use a button. As you can see, nice, simple, really, really simple, and it's smooth as well. Look at the smoothness of the animation. As I click animate, the image rotates from 90 degrees inwards, and as I click animate, it animates back out. And this is two-way. There's different states you can use. So if we go over to Vue transitions, and we go over it because this is the main documentation for it. Ignore all this, but this little diagram down here, you can see how it kind of works. So you have an enter and leave state, and each enter and leave state have three different states to do with them. So the first one is Vue enter, which stands for the way when you first come in. So this is the starting point. You then have Vue active, which is active for the whole of the lifetime of the animation, and then Vue enter 2 is the end of the animation. So actually opacity 0 to opacity 1, and then the same with Vue leave, which stands for starting point, the whole animation, and the end point. Now, the things you would normally define on enter is what you want it to start as, and then and same with Vue leave 2 or Vue leave. And then the Vue enter is like where you add your transition property, how you want it to act, like maybe a delay and whatever else you want to add to it. This goes on this. And then your Vue enter 2 obviously is where your animation will go to. So without messing around anymore, let's get into this and start a new project. So if we come over to our desktop and open up your terminal of choice, someone asked me what terminal do I use, and just so you know, I use the normal Mac terminal. I've just styled it up a little to look like a freaking window. I don't know why, it kind of really annoys me now. But yeah, so it's just normal window styled up, normal terminal styled up to look like a glass pane, as you would. Anyway, so let's start. So let's cd into your project folder. And I'm going to make a new one here. I'm going to call this day 67 of 100 days of code, that is. And this one is going to be Vue transitions, and hopefully tomorrow, if you guys enjoy this video, will be Vue animations, where we go into more advanced animations, maybe even pulling a third-party library. Again, just all depends on you guys if you want to see more of this. So 100 days code, we've got that. Let's cd into day 67. Now one day 67, let's create a new, now let's use, so we're using the Vue CLI. If you don't know how to install that, I suggest you either check one of my previous tutorials near the beginning. I believe it's between 10 and 20 the video would be. It'll be called Vue Basics or Vue JS Basics or something similar. I'll probably put a link in the description. If I forget, then just ask me in the comments. But if you do know what you're doing here, we're going to use the Vue free CLI or Vue CLI free to create a new project. So we're going to do Vue create and we're going to run Vue. We're going to call it Vue Animations. Hit enter, and then it's going to ask us for a few options. I have a preset already set for this, but I'm going to go to manually select feature, so you just hit enter. I'm then going to select router by pressing spacebar to select a router, and then I'm just going to hit enter again. This is going to ask us, do we want to use history mode? I'm just going to hit enter through that. I'm going to enter this, enter, and this one doesn't really matter for this small project, so again, just enter, and once again, enter. And now this is going to basically build build the files for our application. So I'm going to let this run, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay guys, so once that's done, you'll be greeted with these commands down here, which once it's successful, it'll tell you what to do. So yes, the first thing we need to do is cd into our project. And then I'm going to open this up in my favorite text editor, which is VS Code, which stands for Visual Studio Code. This won't work for you unless you've binded the keys. Again, you can Google that if you really want to. And let's just bring this up here. And bring this, should we make it full width for now? Or should we, yes. And then we'll have our page over here for now. Actually, this should be responsive as well. So let's bring this down and all the way in. And yeah, it's responsive. Maybe need some padding on the edge. Yeah, you know, we'll do a mobile version for now, and then we'll make sure it scales up too, so you can see both views. So very simple still, everything still works how it should. But this is actually our old app. If we refresh, I've turned off the surfer for that. So let's get a surfer running. So back in our terminal, the way to run the Vue surfer is we go npm surf or npm run surf, hit enter, and it's going to run our development surfer. You got to let this run. It'll take a minute, but while that's running, let's have a look at our file structure. So over in source, you'll see we have some files. We have the app.vue, which is the main view with all of our styling templates, our main files, and then the router view, which is where our views are rendered to. As you can see here, this is one of the views, and it's another view. Now, if we go to, let's say, home, you'll see that this is what's displaying now. And then if we go to about, you'll see this is what's displaying now. We're going to remove the component from home. So let's strip this down. Let's remove this. As you can read there, @ is an alias to /source. So if you ever wonder why I use an @ symbol, there it is. It basically links to this directory. Okay. Let's, so this home, we don't need a component because we're not going to be using it. Actually, we don't need components at all. We're not going to bother with components for this video. I've gone over components before, but for this video, we don't need it. Let's give this just a h1, which says home page. And then we're going to add a page class to each of our pages, including the about to. And I'm also just going to rename this to about page. There we go, nice. Now if we go between the two pages, that is very nice. Let's go to the app view and let's change the colors of these. I want this to be yellow because yellow is the master color in my case anyway. And this font weight bold, I don't want bold. I do want the font size, however, to be a bit bigger because it makes it easier to click. Maybe bigger for now, maybe 20. There you go, that's nice. And where's my text decoration? We don't want text decoration. We know what these links are. It's not like it's on our website. Okay, fair enough. That's good. That works. All right. So we've got that. Let's add some padding here. Just making sure everything's in order here. I'm going to add some styling to the body just because I want to make sure it's all clean. So we're going to add padding 0, margin 0 to remove the padding. I'm going to add a background of F3, 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 and a font family. Actually, you know, we'll stick with the font family they give us in the app. There we go. A little bit better, makes it feel nicer. I don't like having any space on the edge. It really bothers me. Don't tell anyone because then they'll use it against me, and then I'll be sad. Let's have a look what we got here. Cool colour. You know what? A nice blue is fine. That's nice instead of using everything. Okay. I'm 100. Yeah. Still deciding. Okay. So after our page, we're going to add a paragraph, and I'm going to give this Lauren with 40 pixel text. If I hit save, there we go. That is elegant. Here we'll do the same. We'll give it Lauren, but we'll say 30, just so it's different, so it doesn't feel the same. There we go. Nice. Cool. So let's go back to our main view now. Okay, so now this is where we start going into transitions. So the first thing we want to do is add a transition a transition tag around our router view, and the reason we do this is so we can manipulate the router view using a transition. So this is the container for a transition. This is what hosts the transition and applies the transition, and we have to give this a name, and the name is used in the as a class essentially. So you'll be using whatever you write in here as your class. For this one, I'm going to call this view. Because it's our main view or page. You could have called it page, but I already have set these two to page as my classes, which doesn't matter too much if you set it to page, but again, having it different just makes it a bit more easier to read. So this view, and after that we don't need to do anything else. Now we should be able to swap between, and it will animate. As you can see, it's kind of a bit weird right now because we've added a transition. So it's trying to transition, but we haven't added any sort of transition to it. So it's just instantly popping the two pages next to each other, which breaks slightly, as you can see down there. So first things first, we want to go to our page for starters. We want to set our page style, and we want to give it a width of 100%, a max width. Where is it? A max width of 768 pixels, and let's give it a padding of 15 pixels. Oh, that's knocked it out. Let's give it a box sizing of border box, and back in. There we go. Nice. Just to add a little bit more to it. To be fair, it probably didn't need the padding. And now we've got our page. We now need to use our transition. And to apply a transition to this transition view, we need to use this name, which is actually going to be part of the class now. So we've got to type view and then enter active. And what this does is Vue knows that because we've added the class or the name of view to this transition, anything with view -enter active or any of the other following classes I add to this in a minute, it knows that these are to do with this transition block here. So view enter active, and then we're also going to apply one to view leave active because they need to be the same. Well, they don't need to be, but in our case, it makes it easier for them to be the same. We're going to set a transition property on this because we want to transition opacity by 0.5 seconds, and we want to set ease in out. We're then going to say transform because we want to transition our transform. God, there's so many different words for this. Transform ease because we just want that to be a nice smooth transition. And that is all we need for this section here, because basically these classes here are what last for the whole lifetime of the animation. So as you click these, well, actually it doesn't do much right now, but these transition throughout the whole life of the transition. So let's add something else now. Let's say view enter and view leave 2. So what we're saying here is Vue enter. So when we enter the animation, or when we're leaving 2 somewhere, so the end of a leave animation, we want to set the styling or the transition to this, and we're going to set the opacity equal to 0. And we're just going to stick with opacity for now. We're not going to do a transform just yet. We'll do that in a minute. The second thing we want to do is Vue enter 2. So we're doing the reverse of what we've done up here. And Vue leave. And if you think about this as a keyframes animation, in a keyframe, you have you can say to, and you can say from. And this is what this is. So you see to here, and this is the from, where there's no to on the end. So this is kind of what's happened here. And the reason we're applying it to the enter and the leave to is because these are going to be the same when they come in and out. So now in the to, we want to set opacity is equal to 1. And let's go back up here. So this means when the page leaves, so once this home page leaves, it's going to be equal to 1, which it is. But then when it goes to this next section, the leave is going to be equal to 0. But then when we enter the new page, it's going to be equal to 0, and it's going to set an opacity of 1. So now we've done that, let's actually try this out. So let's see what happens. Now if I click next, as you can see, it animates across. But you can see there's some sort of jumping going on. And that's because they're adding it, the Vue transition or the router is adding in this page before the home page disappears, and vice versa. Now to fix this, we could either add a delay to our transition, or we could have set the this little thing as like a fixed position or a relative position with a top of 0, and that would not move then, and they will just transition over the top of each other. But we don't want that. We don't want them to transition over the top of each other. We want them to animate once after each other. To fix that, if we grab the Vue enter active class, we want to add the opacity, or sorry, the transition delay, and we want to set it to the same time as how long the transition lasts, which is 0.5 seconds. If we hit save now and we go to the next one, as you can see, it seamlessly transitions in and out. And the reason that's happening is because the router adds in the page instantly. So when we click about, it instantly adds the about page. But because it's invisible, opacity of 0 for 0.5 seconds, we want to basically, before we start activating or displaying the about page and making it visible, we want to wait until the home page has fully disappeared, which is after 0.5 seconds. And as you can see, it works pretty nice. It looks good. I enjoy it. So that's good. That's cool. But what happens if we want to add some more fanciness to this? So let's say we want it to move. So that's why we've added this transform. So now in the 2, we want to set transition or transform, translate, and let's start with X. Now let's start with minus. So remember, this Vue enter and Vue leave 2 is where it starts from, where the animations start, and down here is where it ends. So we want it to end at transition or translate X at 0 pixels, because we want it to be back to the start. So now if we press next, as you can see, it kind of animates out and back in, out and back in. Now a better one I prefer is coming from the top to the bottom. So we can change that to translate Y and translate Y. Now if we click about again, as you can see, it comes in from the top, goes out through the top and then back in through the top. And we can change this up if we wanted to split this up so so the about page comes in from the top and the home page goes out through the top, we can. And let me show you how. So if we take off this Vue leave 2 and we just leave Vue enter, so we have to change how the each one of these works. So we've got Vue leave and Vue leave 2. So now if we leave this like this and we do the animation, as you can see, it waits and then it just jumps in. So now we want this to fade out through the bottom. So when it leaves, we want it to fade out through the bottom. Again, when it leaves, we want the opacity to be equal to 1. And then we want to set the transform of translate Y equal to a minus 100 or no, 100 pixels, because we want it to go the other way. Now in our leave 2, we want to set the opacity to, I'm not sure if I'm doing this the right way around, but we'll find out in a minute. So we'll set the transition and the transition Y to 0 pixels. So if we click this, it kind of bounces a little if you can see that, but I'm not sure it's actually doing anything. Let's see why. Oh, because we send it to leave. So let's try and do this from 0 to 100, because when it leaves, we want it to move away. There you go. So now it kind of goes down at the bottom and comes back in through the top. And I kind of really like that, actually. That's actually really enjoyable. It's better from what demo I had upstairs. And just to let you know, this is, oh, where am I going? This is responsive. So if we bring this wide, why is the page like that? Colors are wrong. It is responsive, although it's not centered, but we can fix that really easily. Let's fix that now. So where's our page? We want to display this block. I think this will work. If not, we'll add a flex, because flex does a lot of amazing things. 0 auto, hit enter, and there you go. It's back in the center. So as you can see, it is pretty seamless. But now let's say we've done the page transitions. Let's animate some objects, or for our case, an image. Let's go to our home page. We're going to animate in here now. So under here, let's create a button, and let's give this the animate. Let's capitalize it, animate. Then once we have done that, let's add in a click event. So Vue have these. This stands for like an event, and this is equal to the click event. And on click, we want to say show is equal to not show. And let's go down here and add that in. So that is a data. That's going to manipulate the data to make it show, because we're going to use a fee show, which basically means it shows if the condition matches. You'll see how it works in a second. Let's give show, and by default we're going to set it to false, because you don't want anything to be visible. There you go. So now we have this animate button, and it's going to flip what that is equal to. The second part we need to do is now add in the transition property. Oh, hello, that's not what I wanted. The transition property. We've got to give this one a name, but this time we've got to give it a different name to our what we called in here. But in this case, we're going to say image anim, which stands for image animation. And now in here, we want to set the image, and the source is going to be @/assets/logo.png. I'm not going to have an alt, but I am going to set a width to 150. I think that should be good. So now on this, we're going to add in a ng show. Oh no, not an ng show. That is Angular for anyone who doesn't, and it's going to be a fee show. Fee show or fee if show? Oh god, I am losing my. It's definitely fee show. Let's add in here show. So now, if that is true, it shows. If it isn't true, it shouldn't show. So if we save, there you go, it shows. But that's a bit messy. Let's add this around a diff with the class of animate, because it's always better to animate a diff rather than a image source. There you go. So now that comes in. Let's give it some padding. So animate. Let's style the so say .animate. We're going to give it a display flex, although it doesn't actually need it. We'll give it a padding of, or margin of 25 pixels, 0 pixels. Hit save, animate. It's got a bit more space now to do its animation. So let's add the animation to this. So we've gave the transition already with an image anim feel. Let's now say image anim, and again we're going to add enter active, and we're going to do the same but with leave active, because we want it to transition the same stuff. So we're going to say transition transform, and we're going to set it to 0.5 seconds again, and ease. We're then going to set the opacity to 0.5 seconds and ease, because we want to animate both of those features. Once we've got that done, now it should animate, but it's not going to animate just yet, I don't believe. So if we hit save and we click animate, yeah, no animates. We need to add in the actual starting and end properties. To do that, let's add in an image anim enter, and then image anim leave 2. Yep. So again, these are our starting and ending routes. So it starts here for our when we first enter the transition, and it ends here when we're leaving the transition. So let's say transform, and we're going to say translate x, and we're going to set this equal to -100 pixels, but then we're going to rotate it on the c-axis by 90 degrees. So this is going to add a slight little turn in the animation. Let's do opacity of 0, and let's do the other value. So now let's say anim image enter 2, because this is the end of an enter animation, and then anim image leave, which is the start of a leave animation. So we want to say transform translate, where's our colon, translate x, and we're going to set this equal to 0 pixels, and then rotate c, which is going to be equal to 0 degrees. We're then going to set opacity equal to 1. If we hit save and we come over here now and we click animate, nothing happened. Why? And that is because I think I messed up. Image anim, transform, transition, transform. So where have we gone wrong? You guys probably already seen what I've done wrong here. Okay, so we have the image. The image does normally show. Oh, we've added fee show to the image, but we need to add it to this div class here. So now if we click animate, as you can see, it comes in, although it kind of doesn't really go out. Image anim leave active image. Oh, look, it auto corrected. You guys definitely saw that and are just screaming at me. So when it goes to leave, it doesn't do the animation because this auto corrected to image instead of img. Now if we animate in and animate out, there we go. We got there in the end. I've decided to leave any sort of mistakes I make in from now on, so you guys can see the process of me fixing it. If it takes too long, then I'll obviously skip to where I find the fix, but otherwise I'll try and keep it in for you guys to learn from my mistakes. So as you can see, now we can animate stuff in and we can animate stuff out, and we can animate objects, as you can see here, or we can animate whole pages, so we can have nice seamless transitions between pages. And again, this is responsive how we've made it. You can make it responsive as well. Again, nothing really changes. You could add media queries if you want to change it up, but again, that is how it works. And you can completely change, again, if you added a media query, you can change how this works on how the animation animates on mobile and on desktop, of course, and tablet and so on. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I know, again, it wasn't a long video, but I'm doing slightly shorter videos to get out right now, and then in the future I'm going to end up doing some proper long in-depth tutorials, but for now we're starting on the basics and we're going to go into the more advanced topics soon. If you guys want to see more Vue animations instead of transitions, like some proper in-depth animations where we click animate or something and it does a multi-step animation, let's say a square comes in, it moves over here, moves down, moves that, and then fades out. Something similar, probably not literally that, but like something which is cool, maybe something more practical, like animating a sliding bar, or if it's like a game sort of gamification way of doing it. So you get what I'm trying to say. So if you want to see more advanced stuff, then let me know in the comments and I will get straight on that. Other than that, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a thumbs up, it really helps. If you want to see more, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and if you want to be the first to the scene, then hit that bell notification icon and you'll be notified as soon as I upload a video, if YouTube works, that is. No offense, YouTube. Thank you to all my Patreons who have supported me so far. Your support really does help. And other than that, guys, Thank you for watching this video, and peace out.
Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Keep my head up when I act, head up, that's a fact. Never looking back, I'ma keep myself on track. Keep my head up, staying strong, always moving on. Feel I don't belong, tell my thoughts to move along. Push myself